Greetings everyone, a warm welcome. Hey, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate that you're here and listening. This is the September predictions video series. So this is using the Psi cards, which are over here, and I also incorporate a couple of the traditional tarot cards as well. So what we're doing here is tuning into collective conscious energies that sort of span the planet or the globe, and these energies come from the people, also from the energies of Gaia herself as well. So we will shuffle some of these cards just to get a background feeling or resonance energy of what is going on for September on the earth with collective conscious energies. You could also term it remote viewing, because we're tapping into energies of other people and seeing what they're all sensing. So there's the first card that came out that's a jumper. It's the Five of Pentacles. It's not a favourite card for people by any stretch of the means. Let's see what else is coming for September. I've changed my shuffling style, if some of you may notice, and I find that this way you get a lot more jumpers that arrive. So by default, the jumpers are choosing themselves as well, and they tend to want to make more of a statement. So this is for September 2019, collective conscious energies, what is in the air and what is around. That's not really that nice. We are just coming to spring down here in the southern hemisphere. It's the 2nd of September today, so we're welcoming in spring, and in the northern hemisphere you guys are welcoming in autumn or fall. The change of seasons and the fact that September also has the solstice day, can often bring quite tumultuous weather. In particular, weather events around the planet, both northern and southern hemisphere. They can also bring a little bit of tumultuous energy for humans and animals as well, just in ways of emotions being a little bit brought to the fore and the surface of things. And I think September will have quite a lot of emotional activity going on in it. Starting off with these two cards, they're both a little bit what we could call tense. There's quite a bit of tension in them. They're not major arcana cards, but they do have a little bit of tense energy. So these are the Psi cards. Let's see what arrives for September for 2019. They won't all necessarily jump out. I will just shuffle until there is the right feeling involved. The Cave. With the Cave, this often can indicate periods of intense weather. And I remember this one came out when the Sandy Hook cyclone struck in America. The liberation, friendship, the sun. What else is in store? Oh, they really, you can see when they want to jump out, they do sort of come by design rather than by any form of choice. So there's 6 that have arrived, and I would normally only do 6 for the reading anyhow. So I think we will stop them at the 6. I'll move them up here so they can be seen a little more. Let's just feel into these and see what messages they're giving. So if we start with this one over here, which was the first jumper, the Five of Pentacles, traditionally in any tarot reading, it would indicate a little bit of financial hardship. It can often indicate when finances come to a grinding halt, or when there's been a block of some sort put on them. There's also the 2 people down beneath the Pentacles, and they are rather forlorn looking, a little bit bereft, sad. She seems to be nursing the chap more than the other way around, but they have a feeling of being left out or locked out as well. So this card, although it is a 5, which is a good sign, which means a temporary situation, but the temporary situation often means feeling of loss or lockout, pain or sorrow, deprivation. It can also regard financial situations. So if we're talking about this as a global phenomenon as opposed to just a singularity as in an individual, finances could be for some reason a prime target of being in a negative situation for September. So there may be shutdowns or lockdowns or feelings of finances being tightened up or hardship around them. This could indicate issues to do with the share markets globally or financial markets, whether it be the dollar value within certain countries, but it would feel as though it's quite a negative shift, as if things are heading down. Now, reasons for those to occur can be many and varied, and oftentimes, as I said, they're not necessarily long term, they can be quite transient. So in the month of September, you may see many ups and downs in terms of either stocks, share markets, financial markets, or even things such as the oil and gold and silver and markets along those lines. We see these two here. There is a perspective or dynamic of health when this is involved. So there may be some health issues in the month of September, and I know some other astrologers are also suggesting that September could bode some quite big health issues. This one here, he does look quite unwell, physically unwell. There's blood on him, so blood might be a part of the message that's coming in for September. It may have to be something to do with blood-borne disorders or diseases that are affected by the blood one way or another, or physical damage of one type that may happen to people, to a lot of people. Yeah, so it's not the best of ways to start, and this Nine of Swords was not a great deal more pleasant, but it kind of indicates that it's more of a mindset issue. So the Nine of Swords is about feeling tense or anxious or worried or in a state of fear or being tied up or bound up somehow. So September could bode a feeling globally as if there is little freedom. Something is constricting or contracting around us, whether this be political beliefs or situations. And I'm thinking here of the whole Hong Kong scenario and what's going on there, the way people are being contracted or constricted and their freedom is being tightened up. And it's not just Hong Kong, there are obviously other places around the world, but at the moment that seems to be at a pivotal point. There was also the Paris riots that were a little bit more active a few months back. There's no doubt to be more and more coming and escalating in these times as we want more freedom and we want to be heard more. But this is a sign that it's not happening, or that we're not getting through, or something is blocking us. And with that, it creates inner turmoil and tension for individuals. So you could say mass wants or mass needs that aren't being met come back and create individual tensions for people. So it could be a month where we see a little bit more anxiety, fear, trepidation and feeling of restriction for many people for one reason or another. Now health could also come into it some way, and I noticed there's quite a lot of red coming in those two cards there. Oh, I didn't realize that was the tree. Really, I don't think I noticed that. There's also red over here. So red often means fiery and hot and anger. So this could be a colour that is reverberating through the month of September in terms of fires, heat and anger and, aggression. But let's come back up to the cave up here. He had turned up, as I said, in the Sandy Hook when there was the big storm that hit that part of America. Well, I believe there is a big cyclone or hurricane that is going up that way at the moment, about to make landfall soon. I think it has just crossed across the Bahamas. The cave often has that feeling of hunkering down and just being really stuck and going, oh no, get out, just take it away from me, just get rid of it, I can't bear this anymore. A little bit like this feeling as well, feeling very stuck and tied into something and there is no escape, you can't see a way out. So this has often in the past reflected weather events where people are hunkered down or trapped or stuck into a situation and they're feeling quite fearful or frightened. So whether or not this is this particular cyclone that is about to make landfall, Hurricane Dorian, this may have quite a large impactful event. They are predicting it to be, and that is the feeling that the cave often gives. So it can also give this feeling of things to do with mountains or volcanoes, because it looks as though it is in a natural cave within a volcanic area. So this can be talking about eruptions, and I did sort of feel as though eruptions might be present in September. This could be part of the heating up issue that the planet itself is going through. So volcanic issues, whether it's eruptions or disturbances some way there. This can also have to do with things like the subway or underground issues, caves or mining events as well. And I have also mentioned it can give this feeling match quite well with this 9 over here, the feeling of just being restricted or constricted and not being able to get out of a situation that is feeling as though it's trapping us. And in this card that arrived is the complete opposite. It's liberation. So it's freedom. These two are running away on the back of a horse through this opened door or gate here. Now oftentimes, because of this brown snake, I think of Australia. So often when this card turns up, something happens in Australia that becomes in the news. Sometimes it has to do with snakes, literally, but other times it can be weather-related events, big rain events, possibly where we see storms or floods like this, fast-flowing rivers in the background where they breach their riverbanks and they flow into towns or into houses, like an inland tsunami. So it doesn't just have to be Australia where that happens. It can be other parts of the globe as well, but it's indicating a really heavy, wet sky with lots of rain and people fleeing. There's also the fact that this has been a door that has been locked, it is open, and this was also a barred gateway here, and the gates have been opened. So this message on the card is about something that's opened and people fleeing or running from it. And given that we were feeling restricted with the cave, and there's been this kind of feeling of restriction or being locked out of something over here, all of these cards could tie in one way or another in a subtle message that I haven't actually portrayed yet, which could be that they were all stuck together in this feeling of loss or not having any success. And if we're thinking of something like Hong Kong here, that they may end up for some reason having to flee the streets and run. And it might be because the army or the military are brought in to take over and take power back, thereby shutting down all these people that have wanted the freedom and they're still trapped. So again, Hong Kong is not necessarily the only place where this vibration could be taking place or effect. We see the friendship card, I think it was out in August, is very much about this hand over here that is coming into the circle. So often this has to do with political figures that are making rules or trying to decide what's going on in the background, or who should cover this off, or who should create this rule, or what country should be the leader, or who should follow this or that. And this gives you the feeling of perhaps like America and China with the Trump saga, and one minute he's talking to them and the next he's not. So there's the possibility here that there's still things going on that could happen in September. Whether or not this increases in tempo and gives the feeling of restriction or being cut off or pushed away, like friendships that fall away because of something said. Trump could escalate his tariffs on China, or they could retaliate, and there could be hands tied and no agreed definition coming through for the trade wars that are going on. So China and the USA could be one of these that are in energy field at the moment for September. It doesn't have to be just them. It can also be the Middle East, it can be Russia as well. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, any of the countries that are politically active at the moment or have issues, and speaking of which, Australia has its own sort of political issues going on. So there's a little bit of tempestuous around their political field as well. That could also be in the play. We come to the sun and we see the sun, and children. So children can often be affected in this month for some reason or another, and usually it's not a positive feeling around them, but there can be large groups of children affected one way or another. We come back to the sun, and when that comes in, it often says that something unusual about the sun could occur. Now we're entering into a new sun cycle, which it happens every 11 years, and we're just flowing into it now in September and probably through to the end of the year. And with that comes a different vibrational energy that the sun puts out. So sometimes we might see an increase in solar flares or sunspot activity or radiation coming down to Earth. And all of those things affect us at the geomagnetic level and at the emotional level as well. So the sun may play a role in September. It could also mean that it's going to be very hot, because that card just oozes heat. And it might be the northern hemisphere where the harvests are taking place. So some of you up there could still be in for some really unusual hot temperatures for September. The libido card has not been out for a long time, which is probably a good thing, but it is here now. We see first of all the animals. Oh, and another brown snake. So we've got two references for the brown snake. Now snakes can reference, or have traditionally in many biblical esoteric messages, the snake talks to us about rising energy, like an attainment or an understanding of spiritual ethos. So there's a possibility that there is some global spiritual culmination of energy or peak or rise or something coming to us in this month of September. This could be at a personal level, though. It may not be something that you see as a mass event, but personally for people you may feel something coming in, and some of that may be activated from the energy of the sun. So that could be a personal message for people, and they might experience quite a change in September, or activation, or some sort of feeling of liveliness from the base of your spine up through to your crown chakra or the top of your head. The other thing is we see the animals, so this often represents mass animal die-offs, which are happening more and more frequently, in part due to climate change issues, but this could be brought to our attention in quite an obvious way in September. The third thing for the libido card is it usually represents mass weather events and rapid pouring water moving through areas. So we've got a couple here that are talking to us about the weather in terms of a big mass events, cyclonic or hurricane or events like that. These three really do hark on quite a lot about that. So the other thing that the libido card can represent is mass deaths. So something that is a mass event that does create a compassionate empathy globally. Now sometimes the mass events are mass shootings, and they can sometimes be in America. I know America does have a lot of mass shootings, but this one, when the libido card comes out, can be bigger than usual or more impactful, just creating a compassionate event. Now sometimes this libido card can also just create mass compassion events that affect us globally. It doesn't have to be a mass shooting, but it can be some other major event that takes the whole planet by storm, and everyone is compassionately caught up in it. So it hasn't been out for a long time. We will have to watch and see what that one is referring to. The tree, hot, red, angry, fires, so forests burning. Of course we have the Amazon burning at the moment, which has created a great deal of strife and tension. So that may, the Amazon fires may be an ongoing aspect of this, or there may be new fires, or it may extend into some political fire, which is just about happening, unfortunately. Earth herself, heated, hot, fires, trees burning, forests burning. Then when we come to the next part, it's the family tree. Now this often indicates issues with families, and this can sometimes be insinuated with the libido card. So sometimes there might be a strange family event that takes place that creates a lot of compassion or a lot of passion about what's happened, how people have been treated or mistreated. And it can often involve a famous family or a family tree that is indicted one way or another. You know, I think about too the whole Epstein saga and all the pedophilia and stuff that's going on around the world. That's very much what might be going on with the Sun card. This could be a message about more information coming through, opening up about the pedophile ring that's been a very global ring and has been going on at the highest end with the elites in this circle of friendship that's been very hidden, but someone is coming in to open things up and provide more information. So there we are. We know there is a lot going on in the air at the moment. There is a lot happening behind the scenes, but that is basically the September reading. The bottom card on the deck was the Peace card, which has also got the sun rays coming through. So two messages there about the sun and some sort of extrapolation or movement from the sun, bringing it down to us, doing something one way or another. The Peace card also usually means lack of peace, so it doesn't actually mean peace. I note too that it is a church, so there may be something about churches or religion or beliefs systems that are also covered off in the month of September. So thanks for joining, guys. Remember, I really appreciate your input and your perspective of the cards. There does seem to be a lot going on there. There's a lot of different perspectives. We're talking about weather, climate stuff, possible volcanic issues. And remember, volcanic issues can indicate earthquakes as well, because that can sometimes be instigated from movement within volcanic activity. There's political agendas going on, there's heat, there's financial markets, there's mass compassion events, a lot. So take care everyone, have a wonderful September. Much love, namaste.